So now in this video, we're back in 3D Max and we're going to be bringing in the architectural drawings that we were looking at earlier. Now, before we bring that in, let's just clean up our layers a little bit so that we can have a little bit of order in the way that things start coming in once we bring in new layers. We're going to delete these two that have no objects on them. And this one here is the CAD layer that used to be called buildings, but now we've made a model of it. So we're going to bring it over to 01 and we're going to call that city, and then this one here is the site mesh. So that one being the site mesh, that one being the city. So we're now ready to bring in the CAD plans. We can do this in one of two ways. Either you can come in and say import and then import, and you can choose your CAD plan there and open it. Then you can choose the layers that you need. In geometry, you can scale it to meters, depending on what you're using. And you can then press OK, and that will come in as individual splines, lines that you can then use and manipulate. What I'm going to be using is a reference technique that I prefer. It is slightly more convenient for architects who will need to go back into their CAD plans and update them. So the File Link Manager allows you to work on the CAD plan, and then when that CAD plan becomes updated, you will then have an automatic update in 3D Max, which is really, really helpful so that you don't have to keep bringing in new plans through the import function before. So we're going to choose CAD plan aligned, design plan aligned. We're going to rescale that, keep it in meters, which is how we created it. The layers, we're going to bring in just all of the new layers, make sure that's fine. And then everything else looks okay. So we're going to press attach this file. There we go. So now you'll see in our layer manager that we have all of these new layers, and we have all of them come in at 0, 0 because that represents the CAD layers. Now, the first thing we want to do is, if we press F3, we want to just have a look at where this has come in and just make sure, once again, that it is in the right place and at the right scale. So you want to turn on your other layers. You can see in plan view that this CAD line here showing the pier has come in exactly where it should on top of our 3D model. So we know that things are perfectly scaled, and we know that here the hardscape is wrapping around to the beach. If we turn on F3, you can get a good idea of pretty much what we'll be doing. You can see here that the swimming pool, we're going to keep that existing. That's not going to change. And all this project is doing is it's taking all of these industrial buildings, which are here, which are currently used as kind of industrial yacht repair centers, and we're going to assume for this project that these buildings are going to all shift to this area and that this marina is going to expand in this direction. And what this project really tries to do is it tries to take this beach and it wraps it around into this beautiful timber walkway marina that extends out into these piers, and on top of these we're going to have these restaurants and these bars floating above the ocean where people can come and socialize, watch the sunsets, and have a good time. And all of this public area around the building then can pull up through the circulation onto that grand stadium that we have perched on top here. So that really is the concept of the building. It's a public building. These towers, let's say that they're going to be hotels in our case. And this is going to be a huge public building and a public spectacle sitting in the middle of one of the most memorable harbors, or at least marinas, in the world. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do, let's just turn off these layers here, and we need to rotate the elevation up into the correct position. Now we know that from CAD we aligned the center line to be correct, so we know that that is fine. All we have to do is we simply have to rotate these two and pull them up vertically. So what we will do is we'll select those layers, and also it helps for that layer not to have any common layer with the plan. Otherwise what would happen is you would have some objects that you would have selected if a layer from your elevation would actually be in your plan. So just make sure that when you move it, you don't move anything that belongs to this, since you only want to rotate this section here. Let's go into our perspective view. We can turn this off now. And what we're going to do is we're going to right click and then just activate your axis constraints. And then what you need to do here is drop down, make sure that you have everything selected, and then here in your selection just choose this one here at the bottom. Then we need to select the correct axis, and with your selection being turned on here, your snaps toggle, select the end of the 0 point. Since we know that this line here at the bottom represents the ocean, and we can double check that by looking here. This represents the ocean here. We can now press E for rotate, and we can rotate if we have the correct axis constraint, and we can start to turn that entire building. Now we may just need to press A to have our building snap to every 5 degrees, and then once it's at 90 degrees you let go. So what you've done now is you've rotated up your elevation, and the last thing we need to do, we can just go back to XY for the axis constraint to get rid of that, is we now want to take this part and we want to reposition it to be in front of our building, so that when we look at the elevation, we have that sitting comfortably where we want it. And we must remember not to move it up or down. We must keep that aligned so that everything is in the right place. We can also make this layer slightly darker so that we can not get confused with what is selected and what is not. And generally I like to make my CAD layers a kind of dark faded out blue, which is quite easy to see. This one can be a slightly different color. Great, so now we've pretty much prepared our 3D Max scene for the rest of the modeling. What we will do in the next video is we will start modeling the first couple of objects, being the hardscape and then the podium levels above, so keeping it quite simple at this point. And that is it for this video. What we've covered, just to recap, is we've imported our CAD plans and we've checked the position in the X and Y according to our existing model, and then we have rotated up the elevation and then the grid lines to be correct in the right viewing plane, so that we can easily go into your front view and you can model in both front view and plan view. Great, so that is it for this video, and we will start modeling in the next one.